Peace, peace. This is Malls. Once again, we are back here for episode 2 of The Breakdown, where I'm breaking down all the songs, all the lyrics to the songs on my new album, A Subtle Reminder, produced entirely by Sharp Cuts. Today, we are going to be breaking down the intro track, House of M.
What can I tell you, people?
House of M, if you are familiar with my albums and kind of the way I format my albums, I like to do the first track as an intro as just one long verse. It's not a skit. It's not just me, even though sometimes it'll start out as me talking, and it's not a whole song, but it's just one long verse. And what I try to do is either just set the tone for the album with that one verse, or it's just let me flex on them real quick to kind of say, okay, if this is your first time checking Malls out and it's the first song you hear, this is the kind of rhymes and lyricism and tone that you should expect to hear from now on. So that's kind of what I try to do with the first track on any of my albums. This one, it was written pretty early. It might have been the third song that I wrote for the album. Again, I do have the notebook I wrote it in. This one's not the Spider-Man rhyme pad that I had on the last episode. This is an older notepad that has all of famous last words. This goes back a long time, and I write on front and back of the page, so I make use of everything in here. This goes back a couple of years, actually. So this was written back in April of 2022. Now, if you listen to the album on streaming, then you might think, hey, it says this album was released in like April or May of 2022. How the hell could they have written that song? Well, there was an issue with the distributor, and instead of making the release date April or May, I can't remember the exact date I released it, of 2023, they put it as 2022. So people who are more hip to the streaming, the Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify, and what have you, they got it way earlier than it was supposed to come out. I didn't, send it off to be released until maybe 3 to 4 weeks before I actually put it out in May of this year. So they got it basically as soon as it got approved by all the streaming sites. It was just there because they said, oh, this came out in 2022, so we'll go ahead and make it available. But I tried to get it fixed, was unable to get it fixed, so there you go. But anyway, this song was written back in April 2022, maybe like the third song I wrote for the album. Still wasn't sure what the album was gonna be at this point. But when I heard that beat, it's a beat. Sharp Cuts usually names his beats according to the artist that he sampled or the song that he sampled, or it just might be some random thing that he thought of in the day. And this beat was called Alley. I knew from the very beginning that was going to be the intro. I love how in the beginning, the vocal sample, what more can I tell you? What more can I say? And that made me think of this is exactly what my intro should be, just because of that little part right there in the very beginning, because it's like my previous album, Famous Last Words, I planned for that to be my last album. Now here I am coming out with another album. What more do I have to say? And so that was kind of the thinking behind that. And then also when I heard the beat, I'm like, this is a very good way to set it off. And so it's a very short rhyme. After it kind of kicks in because, Sharp always has his sections, his intro section, and then maybe his secondary intro section in the verse and whatever. And it's one of those beats where there's no drums in the beginning, but then later on the drums comes in, and the beat was finished when I wrote to it. So I wrote to it with that in mind. So the first couple of lines, a new chapter captured before and after. You heard my book of life, now you're tuned to the rapture. Had to make some revisions, thought that I was finished, replenished my drive, incentivized by more ambition. So a new chapter captured before and after. So famous last words was supposed to be the closing of the book, the final chapter, but I have another chapter to write. So this is a new chapter. Captured before and after, famous last words was kind of the story of my life. So the before and after, my whole lifespan, essentially. You heard my book of life. Now you're tuned to the rapture. So this is like the rapture. This is going to be the new beginning. Burned everything down to the ground. This is the new beginning. Had to make some revisions. I thought that I was finished. So, and that's just, I start out in this game just thinking like, okay, it's going to be this way. And I need to do this and I need to do that. And as you progress and you learn things, you're like, okay, you need to kind of revise your plan. You need to revise your strategy, so that's had to make some revisions. Thought that I was finished. My last album was supposed to be my last album. But replenish my drive. If you have the CD of A Subtle Reminder, I kind of wrote out how this album came about, while making the Bash Brothers album. After getting the positive feedback from famous last words, I just my drive got replenished. I felt that need to create and to share my creations with everyone. Incentivized by more ambition, always been ambitious. I was like, okay, famous last words did more than probably any other album. Okay, let me see if I can raise the bar even more, So the next part, listen, your comfort zone's the only place you'll never grow. Be like water, you adapted to my ebb and flow. Inevitable before I'm snapped into the dust, telling my story is a must before I drift to where the legends go. So that your comfort zone's the only place you'll never grow. It's that whole, get comfortable being uncomfortable. My man Tower T, he used to always say, anything that don't grow is dead. So that's kind of me invoking those two phrases. Your comfort zone is the only place that you'll never grow. So as long as you're comfortable, you're not going to grow into what you want to be or what you are meant to be. Be like water, you're adapting to my ebb and flow. So that's the whole Bruce Lee quote, be like water. Water can crash and, be, violent, or it can flow and be very calm. It takes the shape of whatever it's contained in. So be water, you want to be able to adapt and have adaptability, especially as an entertainer, especially as an indie musician. You have to be able to adapt because things change up so quickly, especially navigating now with algorithms and social media and what was my primary main means of communicating with my supporters and my fans and colleagues, Twitter being a complete shit show. You have to be able to adapt and find new ways. So be like water, you adapted to my ebb and flow. So as I'm adapting to the world, hopefully my supporters, my fans, the people who got my back and love my music, they are also adapting with me, because I like to think that I'm also evolving with my rhymes and with my style. Inevitable before I'm snapped into the dust. That is a Thanos reference, Marvel, a comic head. And I'll get to the title again, because the title of the intro is called House of M. Inevitable before I'm snapped into the dust. So, nobody's meant to stay. So before, ashes to ashes and dust to dust, before it's all said and done, telling my story is a must before I drift to where the legends go, before I meet my ancestors, before I reach, wherever it is after we die. So I want to be able to tell my story. And Jazzy Jeff had this thing where he said, leave empty. You don't want, as a creator, you don't want to, leave this earth, or even if you just lose the ability to create, you don't want to have so many things left unsaid, so many paintings left unpainted, things of that nature. So that next section is nowadays I'm more aware of my mortality, survived a couple tragedies, altering my reality, balancing out my apathy by leaning where my passions be. I feel reborn, blow the horn like Nat Adderley. So that little section is just, again, if you've listened to Famous Last Words, or if you know me personally, you know I've had some really big health scares, some surgeries, and just lifestyle changes. So I'm more aware of my mortality. And not only that, I've kind of been very close to meeting an early demise multiple times in my life. But more so now, as I'm well into middle age, 40 years old, I'm more aware of my mortality. I know that I'm not going to be here forever. Like when you're an adolescent, you never, the idea of you not being here is just not a thought in your head, survived a couple tragedies, altering my reality. We are who we are a lot based on our experiences and stuff. Balancing out my apathy by leaning where my passions be. I do have this kind of, not necessarily laissez-faire attitude where I just don't really care, but I give certain things my attention, and a lot of other things, I just don't really have much of an opinion on it. I don't think too much of it, but that's balanced out by being very passionate about the things that I'm passionate about. Music, basketball, just, comic books, art, things like that. I'm very passionate about those things. I feel reborn, blow the horn like Nat Adderley. Again, that I feel reborn, that part going back to thinking this was going to be my last album with my previous album. I feel reborn. I'm rejuvenated. My creative spark is back. Blow the horn like Nat Adderley, brother of Cannonball Adderley, famous horn player in jazz. And so at this point, I knew that I wanted to have something that just kind of hit, because at this point, that's the last section where it's drumless. And then this next section, this is where the drums start. I say, naturally dope. I attract whatever good comes to me. I won't hold you. I keep it brief like a summary. Come to me for advice and hear what you don't like. Then run back to your mans like your malls be acting funny. See, it's saying just the law of attraction thing, anything good that happens to me, I like to think that, just my attitude and just my assertiveness is attracting those things to me. I wanted to be an indie rapper. I put in the work. I put in the effort. I stepped outside my comfort zone so that those things came to me. Opportunities I've had, people have reached out to me and worked with me just because they saw my work ethic. I attract whatever good comes to me. I won't hold you. I keep it brief like a summary, just like, a little wordplay. Summaries are brief, so I won't hold you. I don't keep you long. My albums are short. My songs are short. This is an intro. It's shorter than even most of my other songs, so I won't hold you. Keeping it brief like a summary. Come to me for advice. Hear what you don't like, then run back to your mans like your malls be acting funny. See, and that's just a lot of, something that happens in I feel like a lot of fields when, people look to you as an OG and people come to you for advice. And, you try to give them the best advice that you can give. And I was the same way when I was younger. People would tell me things and I didn't want to hear it because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. To be more specific, when I was doing shows around here, young guys be like, especially guys that I didn't really know like that, they'll hit me in the DM like, yo, how can I get on the show? And I'll say, come to a show. Come to a show. And then, of course, I would never see them. I would never hear from them again. So that's just me kind of thinking, oh, they probably thinking I'm bullshitting or whatever. Because I would have thought the same thing, in my 20s. And then I kind of follow that up and elaborate. See, I don't operate like them other dudes. Go out their way for shortcuts when hard work's in front of you. Never rode on coattails to get to where I'm going. Master of Self, you could call me the Black Ronin. So that's just kind of explaining that I'm not like those dudes. You know, I don't run from the grind, as they say, or as Dame Lillard kind of infamously said. I don't run away from hard work. You know, I embrace it, and even if I don't want to do it, I know it's a necessity. There's not really a whole lot of shortcuts when you're making a way as an indie musician. Never rode on coattails to get to where I'm going. You know, no one makes it alone, but at the same time, I've never been one to try to hitch my wagon to someone who had a bigger name than me, or someone who had more connections than me. I've never been that type to say like, oh, let me go hang out with so-and-so. Let me get buddy with so-and-so. Let me work with so-and-so. And then maybe since I'm working with them, the other people will pay attention to me. Because that's it's easy to kind of think that it would work that way, but it doesn't, because that doesn't make fans and supporters of you. Fans and supporters of that other person are going to check you out just because you're on that song or whatever. But then after that, you know, it's not going to happen. So I've never rode on anyone's coattails. I didn't try to hitch my wagon to someone who's bigger or someone who's more up and coming to try to get to where I'm going. You know, Master of Self, you could call me a Black Ronin. You know, a Ronin is a samurai who is basically not, you know, working for the, you know, the government or the monarchy. I've kind of always been that guy. Even when I'm in a part of a crew or part of a group, I've kind of always been that guy that was kind of did my own thing, you know, and that whole, like, you know, just that Ronin, that warrior on his lonely path or whatever, off the beaten path or whatever. That's kind of always been my style. And so the next section is knowing more now than I ever did previous. My demeanor's cold because life's never been lenient. But I'm going to keep it a buck like Arizona Tees. The hardest thing to be is what you have always dreamed. And I actually ran out of space, so I wrote the last two bars on a Post-it note. Yeah, so, you know, knowing more now than I ever did previous. Obviously, as you grow and as you advance in anything in life, you know more, you know, later than you did earlier. So that's just kind of self-explanatory. My demeanor's cold because life's never been lenient. You know, again, it's not like I've had like the worst life and the hardest of hardships, but, you know, things weren't easy for me, and it's kind of informed just my outlook on things. You know, it's hard to be optimistic when you've seen and experienced so much disappointment. So it's like my demeanor's kind of cold, especially for those who don't really know me like that. You know, going back to, if you watched the last episode, I did Al Dunbar, the line, "You probably thought I was an asshole." You know, that thing. My demeanor's cold because life's never been lenient. But I'm going to keep it a buck like Arizona Tees. I haven't drank. Wow. I haven't drank an Arizona tea in a very long time, but I believe they're still 99 cents. So I'm going to keep it a buck like Arizona Tees. They've been 99 cents forever. The hardest thing to be is what you have always dreamed. You know, like, they call it a dream for a reason, man. A lot of people don't get to see them being a reality. And I'm one of the fortunate ones who has, on some level, kind of got to achieve their dream and is still achieving their dream. And it's hard, man. Like, it's what the whole saying, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. You know, it's hard. So the hardest thing to be is what you have always dreamed. And so that's the end of the song right there. It kind of echoes out. Sharp did his thing mixing it. So the song is called House of M. Again, a Marvel Comics fan. House of M was this big storyline in X-Men, where mutants kind of ran the world, essentially. My name is Malls, starts with the M, so it's a House of M. Using that as the title kind of came from a as of yet unreleased Bash Brothers song, where I say, "Take off your shoes when you're entering the House of M." And I was like, oh man, I should probably keep that. I should, you know, because, you know, as Bash Brothers, we tend to use something that one of us say in the song as the title. So I'm like, okay, if they don't say we're going to use this as the title, I'm going to use it for my own title. So we never used that. I don't even remember what song it was where I said that. But I decided to use this as the title, and I thought that was a great title for an intro of the song. House of M is the House of Malls. So that's House of M. That's the intro. This lyric breakdown is probably 10 times as long as the intro itself. But I appreciate you watching the whole thing through. You know what I'm saying? If you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you hit subscribe, hit the like button, give me a comments, tell me what you think about the song, tell me what you think about the album. A subtle reminder, if you've not heard it, it's available on all streaming platforms. It's produced, mixed, and mastered by Sharp Cuts, featuring Sharp Cuts on a couple of songs, featuring Precise Politics. He was there for most of the recorded sessions anyway, featuring my man DJ Myth out in New Hampshire. Shout out to Myth. You know, if you are not the streaming type, if you want to support in a more robust way, you can get it from my Bandcamp, malls.bandcamp.com. I still have physical copies available. I have it on CD. You get liner notes, you get the dope artwork that was done by DJ Jazz Pants, and you get a handwritten note and maybe some other goodies that I might throw in there. So get it off Bandcamp and get you a little something extra. It does come with a lot of extra material. I may have put the lyrics there as well, but it definitely has music videos, behind the scenes footage and all that. So you get a lot of extra stuff when you get it from Bandcamp. And once again, man, this has been the lyric breakdown, man. House of M, Malls. Peace.